This is Bob Gourley with Bob's Truth Seekers, podcast number 137. I have the pleasure of speaking to John Craig. And John, can you start a little bit by telling us where you grew up?
Well, yeah, I grew up in Red Bank, Pennsylvania, back in the country, a little town with one road in and one road, the same road coming out. Probably 15, 20 people lived there. Had a little church that I attended. Went to church. My mother made sure I went to church every Sunday until I got old enough where I could make my own decisions on that.
What was the name of the church?
St. Mary's Episcopal Church. In fact, it's still there. Mayor Burroughs in New Bethlehem, the Reverend Mayor, he is trying to get that church up and going again. We got a few people going to it, and they fixed the church up, and it's a beautiful little church out in the country, and that's where we're in the process of getting a tombstone. That's where we're going to grave. My family's buried there, and our families was one of the very first families in this area, in that area down there. The Craigs they came over from Scotland.
So you have some Scottish background?
Oh, yeah, very much Scottish background. My great whatever grandfather wrote the Declaration of Independence for Scotland.
Oh.
And they still go by that today. We have 2 castles over there. We have 3, but the one's in ruins, but people still visit it. And we have a tower that's left from one of the castles, which someone built a copy of in Connecticut. And we're planning on a trip out there this summer to visit it. And the other castle is huge. It's just, they turned it into a bed and breakfast thing, and it costs something like $4,000 a week to stay there. So, of course, if we ever had the opportunity to visit that, we probably wouldn't stay there.
So what was life like around here in the 1950s and the 1960s?
Oh, it was wonderful. And at the time, I thought it was the worst life I ever had. Couldn't wait to get out of there. I didn't want to be a farmer. My parents was farmer. My dad worked in the coal mines, come home, he worked on the farms. My grandfather the same. My other grandfather all worked in the coal mines. And that wasn't enough to sustain their life, so they had to work other jobs. We had a little farm, milked 2 cows. When all my buddies was out playing baseball and football, I was at home milking cows. So I never had the opportunity to get out amongst people like I would like to.
Well, milk cows are very demanding, twice a day.
That's right. And
every day of the year.
After I was done with the milking and the feeding, and I was allowed to do whatever I wanted to, but by that time it was like 8 or 9 o'clock, and it's time to go to bed.
What were you doing before you received your draft notice?
Before, actually, we'd just gotten married. I was working at a milk company, Hoover's Dairy in South Bethlehem. I was a milkman. And I got my draft notice. My wife and I had been married, and we just lost our first child, and it wasn't long. My draft changed, and they called me. And I told her that not to worry, because previous to that, out of high school, I tried to join the Navy, the Air Force, the Army. Nobody would take me because I'm colorblind. And I assumed that I would never go in the draft if he did. Well, we got the draft notice, and I went down to 1000 Liberty Avenue with a bunch of other guys, and we took our draft test. Took the draft and the physical, and they stamped it not acceptable for military service. So I was pleased with that, because we were still grieving over our loss of our child, and I'd be able to go back home with my wife. And they called 4 of our names out. Mine was one of them, and they gave me this great big yellow envelope. In the top of it, on the left-hand corner, it said USMC, which I thought unfit for military condition or something, medical condition. Well, I didn't know that, but it meant the United States Marine Corps. They drafted me in the Marines and never had a chance to come home. Never had to come home to see my wife. I called her and told her I was heading for Parris Island, that I'd been drafted in the Marine Corps. Well, she cried, and so did I. It was pretty quiet for a moment, but I got on a bus, and away we went for Parris Island. And that was the start of my career in the military.
How did your family and friends react when they found out you'd been drafted?
Well, my mother, of course, she was sad. My wife was. My dad, he was proud, because he never had a chance to serve. All of my uncles and stuff served in World War II. One of them, they didn't see him for like 3 years. They thought he was dead, and one day he just popped off. And my dad wasn't able to serve because he was working at a factory in Erie where they built tanks for the service, and he was one of the engineers that engineered the 360-degree turning of the tank, which he got nice check in the mail for that for quite a few years. But he didn't have to go because of that. And when I went, well, of course, he was very proud. And especially, he didn't know what to expect going to the Marines, and I didn't either. Nobody did. But that was the beginning of a whole new life. From a little boy in the country, went to Parris Island, and had to grow into a man in about 8 weeks.
They didn't even leave you come home from Pittsburgh. They took you from Pittsburgh straight to Parris Island.
Straight to Parris Island. They were in such a hurry to get people, because the Marine Corps, of course, people didn't join the Marines very often because of a high fatality group. They just didn't, people didn't join. And at that time, that was in 1966, January of that year, and that's when it was, January 16th was my date of entry. January of that year, the government started a program called McNamara's Goonies. McNamara was the chief, he was head of the war situation. And they started to draft people who wouldn't normally be able to be drafted, maybe because of their mental capacity or a physical capacity that wouldn't allow them to go into combat, let's say. Well, mine was physical because of my eyes. So I figured, okay, I'm going to go. They'll probably give me a desk job somewhere, maybe pushing a broom, something like that. Nah, they had special plans for me because of color blindness. I can see in the dark. I had night vision. So I went straight to Vietnam, right out of, well, went to boot camp, and then I went for some more training, and then stopped in California, where I lost contact with my platoon. Everybody went ahead of me, and they kept a couple of us for special training. And they had a special mission for me. I didn't know what it was. They didn't even talk about it, and they said somebody at some point would come along and pull you out of your squad, and you'll know what you have to do. So I went to, when I got to Vietnam, somebody came to me and wanted me to join their group. It was either that or go and join a platoon that had just been hit terribly at Cambodia. Hardly, they had to dissolve the unit because there wasn't enough men to go back into the war. So they were regrouping, and so I joined this, and it wasn't bad. They took us out, and when I was in California, they taught me how to speak Vietnamese. So we went out and lived with the village people, helping them to set up security, because the North Vietnamese would come in and steal their rice. They would take a certain amount of it, like a tax. Well, if they resisted, they'd just take it all and kill people. So we were there more or less to protect the people and to help them defend themselves. And this went on for a few months. And I thought, well, this must be my mission. Well, my captain, he come along in his Jeep one day. He says, jump in, grab all your stuff and jump in with me. So then he says, say goodbye to all your buddies. You're not going to see them again. So we took off down south on the way to Da Nang. There's a mountain pass there called Death Valley. And at the base of that, or at the beginning of that valley, there was an army base there. And it was Special Forces Green Beret. And I became a part of that unit. I was the first Marine that I know of in Vietnam that was allowed to wear a beret. We had our own little uniform, Tiger Utilities, we wore a beret. And our mission was, to go out and assassinate province leaders that they wanted eliminated. So we worked in small man groups, go up in the mountains and live up there for weeks sometimes, usually just days, until we got our job done. And we had the guys come in, and their mission was to go and kill these people. Our mission was to guide this person to where he needs to go. And then after he got to where he was setting up, he would tell us to go back, wait 3 days, and if I don't return, go back without him. Didn't talk much. They were snipers.
So these were fellow Green Beret people.
Yes, they was the army based.
Army. Okay.
And so they wanted some of the Marines involved in this. I guess the Marines, I think, was a little bit, we knew the area better than anybody because we'd been there for long enough. We knew what road to take, what ones not to take, where to stay away from, all that. So he would be gone and we would wait for him. And usually about the third day when we was about ready to leave, he'd come out of the jungle. Wouldn't talk, didn't say much. But I noticed before we left, we had notches on his gun. And when he came back, he had a nice fresh one on there. So evidently his mission was successful. But that was part of the thing that we did. But mostly what I'd like to think of what we did over there was to work with the people and try to help them take care of themselves.
The fellow, the people that were in your unit, you spoke Vietnam. Did anybody else speak that, Vietnamese?
Anybody else what?
Could speak Vietnamese?
Yeah, everybody that was in that group had
in your group.
No, we couldn't speak it fluently.
No, but you understood.
Oh yeah, we would interpret that. If we get a prisoner, and then we could interpret. I know enough to interpret it, to know what they're trying to say, locations and stuff like that. And I still can. I was surprised. I was out at the mall one day, and there's some Vietnamese people out there that have a nail salon, and they were sitting out there, and I went by, and they're speaking Vietnamese. I said, "Chào cô," and like, "Come." She looked at me surprised, like that I could speak enough to say, "Good morning, how are you?" You know.
Let's get back to boot camp. How long were you in boot camp?
At that time, the boot camp was supposed to be 16 weeks.
16
But
weeks.
because of the rush, they shortened it to about 12. And we didn't skip anything. We just had to work harder. Everywhere we went, we ran. I mean, it was grueling. It's not that way today, I don't believe.
Was it anything like you were expecting?
No, I heard horror stories about,
Boot camp?
yeah, but it was much worse than what I ever heard. At that time, they would beat on you. The platoon upstairs, the drill instructor threw a scrub brush at him, hit him on the side of the head and killed him.
Yep.
Now, he didn't get away from it. He went to jail, but that's the kind of things they did back there. If you didn't listen, at first I kind of resisted.
Yeah.
I didn't like what was going on, and then I finally decided that my dad always said, if you're in a situation that you're not comfortable with, go along with it, no matter what. And that's what I did. It's the only way I was going to get out of there. And I actually graduated third top from my platoon.
What was the toughest part of being a Marine recruit training for you when you were training?
I'm sorry?
What was the toughest part about the training?
The work part of the training?
Yeah.
Well, the physical part was actually easy for me because being an old farm boy, I'd go up to my grandpa's 5 miles up the road. Every place I went, I either had to run or walk like Forrest Gump. And so I was in very good shape.
Good afternoon. We're back with John Craig. And walk us through a day you found out you were headed to Vietnam. What was going through your mind?
When I was going to Vietnam?
Yep.
Well, of course I was confused. I was just a young kid. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what to look forward to, especially in the Marine Corps. And I'm sure it wasn't going to be pleasant no matter what. And then I told everyone I talked to that, yeah, I'll be going to Vietnam. And I was so sure of that. It just, no. It didn't matter even if you had a special trade or anything at that time. They just wanted bodies over there that can pull a trigger.
What was your first impression when you arrived in Vietnam?
Well, the impressions, like I said, that to see the people who were leaving and the death look or whatever they had in their eyes, that they had been through a lot. And I just wondered if I was going to look that way whenever I left there. And I did.
What did a typical night or day look like while you were there?
During the day, it was hot and bright. And that's the time we took to visit with the villagers. And at night, then we set up patrols and go out and try to catch the VC coming in to steal the rice. No matter day or night, hot and humid.
So you're kind of on duty 24 hours a day?
Pardon?
You're kind of on duty 24 hours a day?
Oh, yes. We were out in the field all the time. We never had a chance to come in. The only time I had a chance to come in to Phu to base was when I got malaria and I had a wound that had to be taken care of a little bit. And it was just, as soon as you got well enough, you was back out in the field.
How did you get wounded?
Pardon?
Did you get, was it a gunshot or
A mortar.
a mortar shrapnel?
Yeah. I have, on my side, it's got a lot of shrapnel. When I get an MRI, I light up like a Christmas tree.
Did you spend any time in the hospital?
Nope. Well, the one I did had a piece under my arm. They had to remove that. It wasn't a big thing. Put a Band-Aid on it, and away you go. See, the Marines have a different outlook on this.
Did they treat you right in Vietnam? You didn't. They didn't ship you anywhere.
No, it wasn't bad. The mortar went off. I had a couple places where there's holes there. I put Band-Aids on.
Was it at nighttime? Or
Yeah, it was doing it in the morning. I was down talking to some people that we captured that night, and I was trying to get some information out of them. And that's when I was at the That's when I was at the Green Beret base, and I was walking back to our building, and every morning we got mortared. He'd be brushing his teeth. Say, "Well, maybe you better get in." Yeah, you know, but we got mortared every day, and one happened to hit about 30 feet from me.
The one where you got shrapnel when you 30 feet away.
Yeah, it should have killed me. It blew buildings away that were in back of me. It never knocked me off my feet.
Your guardian angel was protecting you.
Yeah, I wrote a book. I have a book written about predestination, and I always thought that.
Do you have a copy of that book?
Yeah.
You can stay here. I'll put it up here so we can see it.
Can you get that for me out there? There's one on the table.
Okay.
I think your light's predestined, because at one time we were completely surrounded. There was about 18 of us. No way out. We had probably 200 or 300 enemy completely around us. There was no, and I figured, well, this is it. But
Thank you.
when that happens, a whole new feeling comes over you, like you just don't care. This is gonna happen.
This is a book that John wrote, and it's called Vietnam Then and Now, Predestination. So, if anybody's interested,
It's
looks
on.
like it's on
It's on Amazon.
Amazon.
Paperback. $10.
See?
And the reason I wrote that book was for it helped me with my PTSD, because they told me that you have to talk about that. People.
Well, we're back with John Craig again, and can you describe some of the places you served or operated during your time in Vietnam?
Well, like I said, most of our time was around the hamlets and the villages between Da Nang and Hue.
Were they down where the rice paddies were, or were they up in mountains or hills, or?
They were along the South China Sea, and there was rice paddies everywhere. For 12 miles out into the South China Sea, it was all rice paddies. So, and that's how the North Vietnamese got from the north to the south. They jumped they would walk these rice paddies, and there was little villages out there. And there's about 5 miles out. And the Navy had a big operation where they was going to do away with these islands. So we had to go out and take the islands and tell the people to get off of there, because they were going to blow them up. If they stayed there, they would die. Some chose to die. Some we took back in and built them villages, built them nice places to live and everything. Then the Navy, for about 7 days, the Navy, the Marines, the Army, Air Force, they pounded those islands non-stop.
So they would shout from the Navy, and they would drop bombs from the Air Force.
From rockets. Hue was about, Phu Bai was about 12 miles away. They had 10-inch guns, so they shot them. The Navy had 12-inch guns, I think. And they just pounded them islands. Then after it was over, we had to go back out to see what was left. Just a big mud puddle. There was nothing. Nobody could have survived anything. But we found parts of human life there, Some evidently decided to stay. And that was one of the major operations in Vietnam, and we got our unit got a very nice award for that from from South Vietnamese soldiers. It had been like a Medal of Honor, but it was from the South Vietnamese Army.
Did you, were you there for a year?
15 months.
15 months you were in Vietnam. Okay, So you had heat and rain and insects and
Monsoon seasons.
monsoon season.
Yeah, you're out there one day, it's so hot you can't stand it. The sun just beating on you, and all of a sudden it starts to rain. And it never quits.
And it would rain
For like 3 or 4 months. It just
it
rained.
does rain all
The
the time.
temperature would go from 110 down to 70, and at 70 you would just freeze. You couldn't stand it. It was so cold. You couldn't get enough clothes on to keep warm until you got the body acclimated to that cold weather.
Did you sleep in sleeping bags, or did you have tents, or what was your
When
accommodations?
we was at a hamlet, we had a base set up there, and we had the fold up. Cots and stuff, and that's what we slept in. And we would take one of the old buildings that they no longer used in that village, and then we would make our headquarters out of that. But when we went out on patrol, or patrol was just overnight, so you didn't sleep. You just went out at night and did your thing. But at times we'd have to go on short operations that might take 5 to 7 days, and then all we had was our tarp, or can't think of something.
Clothes, just jackets. What'd you have?
Just like a big tarp go over top of you. I can't think of the name of it now. But you would set in that at night and try to sleep. Open up the hood.
And this is during the monsoons. You'd be
Yeah,
out
oh, yeah.
during the monsoon.
Yeah, it would be
How far could you see while it was raining?
not very far. You had to go by your. You had to learn. Like part of my training, islands, and brought them back to the shoreline and built them. The Seabees built them houses and cabins to live in. In fact, they built them a whole new village. And it was, I don't know if it had an operation name, I'm sure it did, but we were never told that out there what it was. We never knew how important it was until I was back in stateside for a couple of years. And because it stopped the flow of the North Vietnamese coming out of North Vietnam down into the mountains around Da Nang. Because they were setting up, they were getting ready for the Tet offenses. There was tens of thousands of troops coming down through and surrounding Da Nang and Phu Bai and all the big bases for the Tet offenses for about a year. And during that year, we had a lot of contact. We had a lot of action because they were coming through our area. It was the only area. When they got off of those islands, they had no choice. They had to come off those islands because they ended there, and then they had to come off of them and go up into the mountains and down into Death Valley. And that was, nobody went down there. Nobody went down there because you didn't come out alive. There were just so many of them in there.
So you were in Death Valley, or you weren't in Death Valley?
About a mile north of it.
You were right
Where
by.
it was still flatlands. You could see the mountains start there. And of course, we didn't go in there because you couldn't fight that many people. You would die. And the Army, Navy, Air Force, everybody, they just pounded that all the time for months. Some of our groups would go up in the mountains and find a location, and I did a couple myself and call in artillery support. You didn't make contact with them because you dead. There's only four of you in one group, and that's the reason. Like me being able to see at night, we could travel at night. If somebody saw you during the day, you had to quit it and call in, and they'd come and get you out of there. Because if somebody saw you, even if it was villagers, they would get you. But so we had to travel at night.
What was the bond that you had with fellow Marines in your unit?
What? I'm sorry.
What,
Am I hearing?
what was the bond like?
Oh.
Were you guys like brothers? Were you like?
Oh, yeah.
You guys?
One incident, when I first got into Phu Bai, just to show you, they had to take me out to one of these villages. So they put me on a supply truck. So I go out, I'm all by myself, I'm on this supply truck, and they dump me off and they take the supplies, and I'm helping them with supplies, and everybody got back in the truck and away they went, and I'm standing there all by myself. And they say, "Hey buddy, you missed your ride." I said, "No, I'm supposed to be stationed here." Oh my God. Everybody comes, they hug, you want to know where you was from, what your name was, everything about you, what kind of car you drove when you was at home. You made an instant relationship with these guys.
Bob Gourley with John Craig. We were talking about your life as a Marine. Do you have any? What was your closest call over there?
Well, probably the closest call was we had set up an ambush along a railroad bed, and there was only 12 of us, and we was waiting for the VC to come in off of the rice paddies from those islands I spoke of. They were coming across the rice paddies and going in the mountains, so we was set up, and we didn't know that, but there was also another group coming out of the mountains going back north. We're sitting there, and we could hear something coming behind us. Well, we got down, and they got so close, you could reach out and grab her leg if you wanted to. You could smell them because they smelled horrible. One guy said one took a pee on him. I don't know if that's true or not. But we left them get out into the rice paddy, and then we'd call in artillery support and open up fire on them. Well, at the same time, a large group was coming using the same path. So one went one way, one went the other way, so we were surrounded. And somebody called in artillery support, and of course we had to open fire then. Then we found out we was completely surrounded. No way out. Totally impossible to get out of that situation. And I just assumed this was it. This is how I was going to die. And the guy beside me, he was an ARVN soldier. He grabbed me, come with me, come on. So I started following these guys. And I'm looking up ahead, you could see because of the artillery and stuff. They were like disappearing.
What was an ARVN? You said that.
ARVN was a South Vietnamese soldier.
So you had South Vietnamese help get you out
Yes,
there.
we had them with us. Popular Forces was mostly what we had, the PF soldiers.
Okay.
And we seen everybody going into this big clump of trees by the railroad track. The railroad track was elevated about 30 feet. And I thought, that's not a very good place to hide. And I was the last one, because when we went in, I was the first one on point, so I was the first one. And they were shooting at me. My gun, we just got the M16, and they told us not to put a full clip in, and I did, and it didn't go off. A Nicaraguan soldier saved my life. Then we got out of there, and we was walking into this, like, big, underneath the railroad track. We didn't know this. We've been there for a lot of years, actually. There's been Americans there. We never knew that there was a tunnel going underneath that. So we went through the tunnel and come out the other side. And nothing there. And I was a squad leader, and I said, "Okay, guys, now we got to go back, and we're in behind them." And they said, "You sure about that?" And I said, "Well, I see what you mean. Let's get out of here."
Yeah.
we live to fight another day.
Yes.
But that was one of our major offenses there. We had Puff the Magic Dragon come in with, the Air Force had that C-131 with the guns on it. It would cover every foot of a football field. It would cover. Anything in that was dead. So we had to go back and set up after that was all done. And you could hear them out there crying, people dying, for help. You couldn't go out there. You had to wait till daylight. And then we had to go back and drag bodies back. We dragged bodies back and we had about 40 bodies. Now this is the VC bodies, not American. Fortunately, we didn't lose any Americans that night. But we stacked them up, one on top of another, to about 6-7 feet high, back in the compound. And I didn't think that was right. I said to my captain, I said, I don't think this is correct, because everyone was pumped up and charged because of the big kill that we'd had made. And he said, yeah, you're right. Because normally we would take the bodies back and lay them out so the people who lived in that village could come and claim their husbands, sons, or whatever. Because most of the people were from our village. The guy that did our laundry for us, we drug him back one night dead. And, you know, you're living with the enemy out there all the time. Yeah, you're never out of danger. Never. You had to watch what you ate. The villagers would like to fix you stuff to eat. They'd take our sea rations and they'd put it in with noodles and so forth and made some real good food, but you had to be careful who you got it from because it could be easily poisoned or something, you know. The enemy was out there all the time. Even though he was having a good time out there playing soccer with them or whatever, you didn't know that one of them that night could go out and kill you.
How did you stay in touch with your family? Good afternoon, Bob Gourley, once again with John Craig. So when they sent letters to you, it'd take 6 or 8 weeks to come over?
Yeah.
And did they ever send packages?
My mother. My mother made these little molasses cookies with a raisin in the middle.
Okay.
She would send them.
And were they any good by the time we got there?
You'd rattle it, open them up, they're like hockey pucks.
They were
And you know what? I still ate them though. And I wrote her a letter, said, Mom, you don't need to send us because they're not good by the time they get her, but she still sent every time.
Was there any best or worst military meals that can make you laugh or cringe?
Any what?
Military meals. Were any of them good or any of them terrible or?
Well, in Paris Island, it was horrible.
Paris Island was terrible.
But as time went on, I think you got used to them. And I really do think they put stuff in it. I don't know. It's just my philosophy. But we ate was sea rations, little boxes, B3 units. There were certain ones that you liked better than others. And like I said before, we would take them out and give them to some of the villagers, and they would take the meat out of it and mix it in with noodles and make a nice meal. But it wasn't bad. That was in 1968, and they were B3 units. They were sea rations from Korea. 1953 was the date on them.
So they were still good.
It's
They were
still
still
good.
edible.
Yeah, they were actually it was pretty good. Once in a while, they would bring us K rations out, which would be some meat that you could, steak or something like that. Potatoes you could make. But that was very awesome.
How did you and your fellow Marines keep morale up during tough times?
Played poker, drank, smoked pot, and associate with the people. We would do community things for the people there. We would. I found a place I could send clothes over, and give them to the kids and the women and the guys, and that really took off. We started doing that everywhere. We'd go around, give clothes, soap and stuff that way. But we played poker, a whole bunch of poker. I lost a whole bunch of money and won a whole bunch of money. And we didn't play for high stakes because none of us had much money to start with. I didn't because I sent most of mine home to my wife. I think they I think they let me win sometimes just because of that. I don't know.
What was the day like? The day that you left Vietnam, what was it like?
Well, I thought I was going to be really, really happy, but I was kind of sad in a way because spending so much time there. And I was actually afraid to come back home. I was excited, anxious, but I didn't know how people would accept me. And I didn't know how I could accept our kind of life, because I got to kind of live like the villagers. Pretty common.
How did it feel like when you stepped off the plane back in the States? Or you came back in a boat?
No, I come back by ship. It took us 31 days. We come back, we were supposed to dock in San Francisco. Well, we couldn't dock there because of the demonstrators. So we went back out for 3 days, and we come in to Long Beach. Couldn't dock there because of too many demonstrators. So we went down to San Diego Naval Base, where the demonstrators weren't allowed on the base. So we could get off ship there, and then when we went out the gate, they was everywhere, and it was thrown at
Did you
spits.
take your uniforms off? Did you have uniforms on?
Yeah.
You didn't have uniforms?
I had, when I flew home, I was pretty proud of my beret and my Tiger utilities, and I was allowed to wear them. And so I wore them. I went to Los Angeles Air Force Base, and I had to take them off. People were throwing stuff at you, spitting at you, calling your names, and you didn't want to.
What the American people didn't realize is these guys didn't have a choice. They had to go.
They were drafted.
Yeah.
You
so
didn't.
Why they were so hateful against them, I don't know.
Yeah, they was hateful against the war, and we was a part of it. Yeah.
Did you have, like, when you hopped on your boat out there in Vietnam, did you have that blank look in your eyes?
Yes.
Like you guys had those.
Yeah. And you had a different feeling about yourself.
Hollow look.
You just carried yourself different. Yeah.
How about when you returned to Pennsylvania? Did they treat you okay in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, we'd come in at Pittsburgh Airport. And yeah, there wasn't any demonstrators or nothing.
So once you got away from the West Coast, it wasn't
Yeah.
so bad.
But we had an interesting thing happen there, though. I was supposed to get a flight 383 in Los Angeles Airport. So I went in, got my ticket, and I called her right away because I hadn't heard her voice in 15 months. I'm talking, and I hear flight 383 boarding. I didn't even know where it was. So I grabbed my duffel bags, and I'm running down, and I'm counting numbers down. I got down to where 383 was, and there's a plane taxiing off.
Oh, you missed
So
it.
I missed the flight. So I had to get one in the morning, and I'm laying there half asleep, and they're showing me, I'm watching stuff come up on the screen, and it said flight 383 went down in Cincinnati. If I'd been on that plane, I wouldn't have made it.
No survivors.
No survivors.
No survivors.
There was 2 or 3 survivors, but they were,
What caused it to go down?
I don't know. I didn't want to go there.
Then, wow.
I tried to keep that just what could have been.
Guardian-
And that's what part of my book is.
There's your guardian angel again.
Yeah, that's what I said about it. My book was,
that guardian angel was very busy.
like my book says, everything's predestined. If you were supposed to die, I would have been on that plane.
How did your time in the Marines change you as a person?
It changed me. I was young. I was pretty wild.
Good afternoon. Once again, Bob Corley with John Craig. Okay, we're getting back to how did your time in the Marines change you as a person?
Made myself. I was more responsible for what I did. I grew up. When I went over, I was just a kid. I come home, I was a man. And I had a hard time directing myself. I did a lot of drinking. I spent a lot of time in bars, fights, got in a lot of fights. Couldn't hold a job at all. I'd get somebody to make me mad, and I'd either quit or get fired. And it took me a while, quite a few years, to get that out of my system. But I ended up with a good job, good life, and and it was. I think it was due to being in the Marines. It was structured, and I kind of based my life on that.
Did you stay in the area the whole time?
Around here,
Yeah. Did you move anywhere? Or
we
you stayed-
moved. Late '60s, we moved to Sharon area.
So
that's-
you lived out in Sharon for a while.
That's where in the trucking companies, when the trucking was real big, they was bringing in all kinds of hubs, and I went out there to get a job, and I took a test, and I did real high on the aptitude test for mechanical aptitude. So that started my mechanical career. They sent me to school. They had their own school, 3.5-year apprenticeship program. Went to school, and while I worked, and that has got me a job anywhere I ever wanted.
So
It taught me a lot.
You can fix 18-wheelers or
I can fix
about
anything. And I've never worked on airplanes, but I do know how.
When did you move back from Sharon?
That was in the
76?
76, somewhere around there. Then I went to work for C&K Coal Company.
That was back when the coal business was still hot.
Yeah. And when I started to work there, I was number 1142. And when I left, I was number 40.
That was a big
And I left on my own accord because I knew.
It was changing. Is there anything about the Vietnam War or your experience that you wish more people today understood?
I'm sorry, would you say it again, please?
You were in Vietnam War, and that was quite an experience. Is there anything that you can help people around here understand about that experience?
Well, one thing, we're not baby killers. That was my biggest thing being called. We did kill babies. Like I said earlier on Ho Chi Island, if those families decided not to leave,
Everybody was.
they was annihilated. So, yeah, I'm sure babies got killed, but we just didn't go in and grab them and kill them. You know what I mean? When you're in war, all kinds of people die. Kids, old people, young people, and they can't defend themselves. So, yeah, that stuff happens. But I think we're misunderstood.
Should we have been in the Vietnam War?
No, not now. That I look back, if I had the chance, I would do anything. I'm proud. I'm proud of being there and doing what I did, done. But it was a complete waste. They was telling the people over here that we were winning the war. We was losing it hand over hand. We could have won it if they left us take the reins.
I didn't think we would have even been over there if they wouldn't have killed Kennedy.
I think you're probably right there.
So, what advice would you give to young people thinking about going into the military today?
Well, I'll use my grandson, Jonathan, for an example. He wanted to be a Marine like Grandpa. I said, well, buddy, that's great. I'd love to see that. You'd make a good Marine, being athletic and everything. But so I got to tell you something. There's two things you have to learn to do when you go into war. So first of all, you have to be able to kill somebody. You have to be able to take another person's life. And then secondly, you have to give your own life up if it's necessary. He didn't go to the range. He didn't go anywhere. And that's what I tell people, war, I look at war as when we're being aggressed on our own land. If Canada come down and attack us, yeah, fight for it. But we're fighting these political wars like now, fighting with Iran, and all stirs up just like a bumblebee's nest. You throw a rock into it and it just scatters. And we need to stay out of that stuff. Leave those people with their religious wars fight their own stuff. We don't need to be over there losing any more lives. Life's precious.
Is there anything else you'd like people that are listening to this podcast to know about your story?
Well,
What did we forget?
pardon?
What else could
Uh,
we talk about that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, I have to think about that a little bit. I think I've talked about it quite a few things, Paul. But and if you'd like to go up on and get my book on Amazon, it has it's not Guts and Glory. It's no vulgar language in it. It's based on my religious beliefs on predestination, things happen in your life for a reason. And they did with mine so many things. I came close to losing my life, and I survived them. And but so many of us veterans now, we pay the price now. I have 180% disability from the VA, and anybody that's in any kind of war is going to have something wrong with them as they get old.
Do you go to any like reunions, or do you meet up with the other Marines ever? Do you guys ever meet up anywhere?
We tried that with the people who we were in with, but we couldn't get together. And one of them went back over, and he didn't come back. And just one person, Ski, that I was with over there, we became real good friends. And I was his best man in his wedding and stuff. But over the years, and he's from Cambria Springs, but over the years, you know how it is. You just lose touch. But no, we don't get together like we should.
What does Semper Fi mean to you?
Always faithful. And I based my life on that. Just not being in the Marine Corps, but being married and always faithful. Just, you have to be faithful to yourself. If you're not, then your life's going to be a disaster.
Well, John, thank you very much for sitting for this podcast.
Well, thank you.
And for being courteous enough to survive the different stoppage. And
you need a break anyways once in a while.
And this is podcast number 137, Bob's Truth Seekers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.